Chair Kite, we're good to go with the live stream.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon. I'm Chair Kite, and I would like to welcome you to the December 8th, 2021 Historic Resources Commission meeting. The HRC is a quasi-judicial body that is governed by North Carolina General Statutes, the City of Asheville's Unified Development Ordinance, and Buncombe County Ordinance. We are authorized to hear requests for certificates of appropriateness for alterations, demolitions, new construction, and other work within historic districts, or for the alteration and demolition of historic landmarks, and other duties, including preliminary review of subdivisions as specified in the ordinances for the HRC. Since we are meeting virtually, please note that members of the public can watch the live stream on the city's YouTube channel and/or participate by phone by calling 855-925-2801 and entering code 9384. For those wishing to give public comment during an agenda item, please call in and press *3 to enter the caller queue. I will now ask commission members to introduce themselves and to say a sentence or two about their background or experience as it relates to serving on the commission. Vice Chair Spring.
Hello, I'm Emily Sprang. I've got a master's degree in historic preservation, and I work in design and contracting for homes in Hendersonville.
Thank you. Commissioner Lazarus.
Good afternoon. I am an archaeologist with a background in historic preservation and renovating homes, and happy to serve on the board, the commission.
Commissioner Hornaday.
Will Hornaday from Albemarle Park, a local historic district.
Commissioner Gross.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sarah Gross. I have an education in anthropology and in archaeology.
Commissioner Vaughn.
Good afternoon. My name is James Vaughn. I have a background in working on renovating homes, getting properties on this National Historic Register.
Commissioner West.
Hi, everyone. My name is Stephanie West. I'm a commercial broker, and I work on a lot of historic projects, do sales and leasings for historic projects in Asheville.
I'm Emily Kite, and I am a local architect in this area. We will now consider the minutes from our November meeting of the HRC. The meeting minutes include findings of fact and conclusions of law. Does anyone have any corrections to those? Is there a motion to adopt?
I move that we adopt the minutes from November.
I'll second.
Okay, we will vote by roll call. Vice Chair Spring.
Aye.
Commissioner Lazarus.
Aye.
Commissioner Hornaday.
Aye.
Commissioner Gross.
Aye.
Commissioner Vaughn.
Aye.
Commissioner West.
Aye.
Myself, aye as well, and that motion carries. We will now begin the evidentiary hearings for the items that are listed on our agenda. As a quasi-judicial proceeding, the HRC is not setting policy, nor are we soliciting public opinion on the desirability of an application. The HRC hears and considers evidence presented and applies the standards set forth in the guidelines and standards of the specific historic district for that application. The HRC must make its decision upon competent, material, and substantial evidence to determine the facts of the hearing. The HRC will use judgment and discretion to apply the standards contained in the relevant guidelines to the facts. The commissioners, in voting for an item, will not have a fixed opinion that is not susceptible to change, will not have a conflict of interest, and will not have engaged in ex parte communication regarding the application. The rules for speaking are as follows. The meeting is open to the public, but participation is limited to interested parties who wish to provide comment or testimony regarding the proposal. If you will be speaking as a witness, please focus on the facts and how they relate to the relevant historic district standards and guidelines, not personal preference or opinion. Witnesses must swear or affirm their testimony. This time, I will administer the oath for anyone that's presently in our meeting that intends to provide witness testimony regarding a particular application. Recognize that not all of our applicants may have joined the meeting at this time, so we will circle back to this swearing in for those participants later on in the meeting as necessary. So I want to take a quick minute to figure out who we've got on the call with us for right this minute. Looks like we've got, for the first application, Scott's present. Gary and Lenora, you're here.
Yep, we're here.
Okay, and Mike?
That's correct. Mike Tamayo here.
All right. What about Daniel Leslie for the next?
Yes, Daniel Leslie is here.
Perfect. Jamie Ashburn?
I don't see him yet. I don't see him or Lee Duggar yet, but I do see Cushman.
All right, so we will come back to Lee and Jamie later on in the meeting. I'm going to read the oath, and I will ask you to affirm as I call each of your names individually when the oath is over. Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the information you present during the hearing for a certificate of appropriateness before the Historic Resources Commission shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Scott Bartholomew.
I swear.
Gary Rand.
I swear.
Lenora Rand.
I swear.
Mike Tamayo.
I swear.
Daniel Leslie.
I swear.
Charles Cushman. Looks like he may have dropped off.
What? I think, Charles, you're muted.
Oh,
Now I'm here. I swear.
thank you. And Alex.
I swear.
I don't, oh, Shannon, you're here too, I see.
I swear.
Thank you. Okay, we will move to our first public hearing item, which is old business at 43 Elizabeth Place. Alex, I'll let you kick us off with your report.
Thank you, Chair Pipe. So this is a resubmittal, as I think everyone that's present today, or the commissioners present today, were here for this, for the first go around on this application last month. It is for, the proposal is for construction of a new 3,000 square foot primary structure in Montford. Just to kind of recap things a little bit, I included the site plan, or the GIS map rather, and the site plan in my slideshow. I didn't include a ton of documents in this particular, for this application, because the resubmittal was pretty, there wasn't a lot of changes, so I tried to keep it simple. So if there's anything that anybody wants me to pull up from the previous submittal, etc., as we're talking, just let me know. I can grab anything from the folder. Some of the concerns that I noted from the last go around were related to the overall design of the structure. I think some of those have been addressed in terms of what the commission had concerns about. I know that Commissioner Spring commented on how the structure was kind of, the back of it was floating over this carport, these double carport in the back. That has now been revised to be finished on the bottom, so that it's not just kind of cantilevered out over the driveway. So I think that definitely is a step in the right direction as far as that concern. You know, the commission didn't seem to necessarily share my concerns about the overall design of the house. I do, you know, obviously I recognize that there are many vernacular iterations of houses in Montford, and so there's nothing about this house that I think is, like, from an aesthetic perspective, I think it's a great house. But looking at it from like a objective or subjective point of view from in terms of like looking at architectural styles in the neighborhood. The house reads more kind of contemporary farmhouse to me than it does leaning towards a Queen Anne or something that is more true to Montford. However, I understand if the commission doesn't share that concern, that's totally up to you all. I'm just kind of giving my professional perspective on it. I do still think that that the windows on the front elevation in terms of the how they intersect with the trim there is a little bit unusual, and that would be like kind of, I think, the only like small fenestration detail that I would pull out this time around. And I think one of the things too, in considering kind of the architectural, the overall architectural style, one of the things that maybe is throwing me off a little bit about this particular house is, and making it read to me as more of like a contemporary farmhouse, is the color scheme. I mean, there are definitely white houses in Montford or neutral colored houses. There's one obviously right next to it, that kind of palish yellow house. But I think maybe tweaking the color scheme a bit could help, maybe break it up into two different colors, a lighter and a darker. And then the wood elements on the front porch are shown as being more of like a natural stained appearance, which I think probably painting them a solid color would be more consistent with other porches found in the district. The other thing that we talked about last go around, or at least that I noted, was the amount of hardscaping on the site. Obviously, they have very limited space to get the driveway down, so no concern there. I think, you know, they obviously have to have room to maneuver a car, but I did want to like reiterate that they are, you know, not technically required to have off-street parking because they're within a mile of the central business district. So just to remind everyone of that. And lastly, I want to come back to the proposed landscape plan. My comments last time around was that they needed to provide some additional landscaping, and I think maybe there is an updated site plan. Let me pull it up because I think nope, I have the updated one. Okay, so one of the things I noted was just that there should be landscaping on all sides of the house, and you know, definitely to soften the paved area back here.
Alex?
Sorry.
Hi, Scott here. There is a updated site plan.
I thought that you had submitted one, and somehow it's not. Let me see. Let me try to find it.
Alex, I see it in the what's labeled revised new construction worksheet and plans. It's that sort of first drawing page after the checklist stuff.
Got it. Here it is. So they've added a little bit of landscaping kind of back beyond, like between the parking area and the house. But I do think they need to add some more. In particular, the guidelines require screening for driveways and off-street parking. Additionally, there's not any foundation plantings here. And I know Scott had mentioned that there's Reed Creek is back here along the rear property line, and there is a stream buffer, and I was made aware that there was a stream restoration project happening back here, but I was in touch with the engineer for that project, and that the work on the stream restoration is complete, and it will not affect anything into the property so much that they couldn't put more landscaping in the back there. So those are all my comments. I've listed my list of outstanding items for review is also noted in the staff report, which is all the material specifications, a railing detail for the porch, and then we need a detail of what the trash enclosure is proposed to look like. And so those are all my notes to you all. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Commissioners, any questions for Alex?
Alex, was the front? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Was the double columns? Was that? didn't we talk about that last time too, as sort of out of the norm?
I'm not sure that came up last time. I do think that that was something that was, I want to say that I'd have to pull up the drawings, but if I recall correctly, the house that was recently approved on Cumberland Circle had double columns. But I can go back and look at that. I don't think we talked about that at the last meeting though.
Thank you.
To clarify, there has been some changes to the front entryway, subtle, but there. A couple things in taking the commission's comments to heart. The previous columns were more of a straight post. We've moved toward there's still double columns, moved toward a more traditional post with a cap and base on it. The slope of that roof was dropped. It's not as steep as it was before, and we widened the porch. If you pull up the straight on elevation, Alex, we widened the porch over to the right, sort of overlaps the front gable, which you can see in the upper right-hand corner, basically enlarging the look of the porch to allow it to be a little more inviting. Also altered was an arch over on the beam over the door. The door also got two side lights in the transom. So it's really some subtle changes, but to give it a more inviting look, a little less closed off as the previous steeper roof was, and also taking into account the details fitting more into the Montford style vernaculars. So we didn't ignore the commission, to put it that way. So anyway, but as we're talking about the front porch, that's also in the front. If we go back to the new site plan, Alex, previously we had a concrete walk over to the trash cans on the right. We've changed that more to a stepstone type hardscaping. Narrowed up the walkways to again allow a little more landscaping area available to us, whether it's grass or additional plantings. And yes, added some plantings just off the back. With regard to the rear yard beyond the parking area, it's not so much that the stream buffer, though I think Mike Tamayo, I'll turn over to him briefly in a moment, but what I'm really looking at back there is there's this big condo building back there, and they have not done any of their plantings regarding landscape buffering between the zoning districts. And I'm really looking to see what that is before we design anything there through this whole backyard. Because if we need to buffer ourselves from them, we want to incorporate that into our landscape design, or are they going to be significantly buffered from us? And therefore we can do more of a design based on an intended garden type thing. So I've really just sort of, as opposed to doing something twice, coming back to you guys later on and saying, I figured I'd just come in front of you once when we really know what we want to do on that. But I would like to turn that over to Mike Tamayo briefly to discuss what his understanding of the stream bed situation is. To introduce Mike, though, I'd like to say he was the owner of this parcel, has since sold it to Gary and Lenora. He was the one that signed the agreement that allowed the condo association to come onto the property to do the stream reconstruction as they've done. But he can tell you more about what the agreement was and what is supposed to be included there. Mike?
Thanks, Scott, and thank you to the commission. So I'm Mike Tamayo, I'm LMT Homes. I'm the builder, and like Scott said, I was the original owner of the lot that we're trying to develop for a client here, and we have given permission to the condo outfit to have access to the stream bed when they were working on it and restoring the stream itself. In that access that we granted, the part of the arrangement was that they were also going to landscape the back portion after they're done with the engineering portion, which is what's been completed from an engineering as far as the water runoff and everything that deals with the stormwater system. So in lieu of the recent floods that we had this summer, they paused on some of their landscaping, is my understanding, to see where the high water marks were as far as the water flowing from the city as it collects and gets, quite a bit of steam and volume and heads down the hill down towards along that Greenway path. So they've paused temporarily there, and they're about to pick up the landscaping again. Difficult for them to do over the wintertime. I'm trying to get my hands on the plans of what they plan to do from a landscaping side on their side, on the condo side across the stream. And they're also supposed to do some landscaping on the on Lenore and Gary's lot side as well, which had already been approved and per the guidelines of stormwater. So we're trying to get our hands on that, and that'll essentially be part of the landscaping plan at that point. So that's kind of where we're at right now. So we're collecting that information. So it's a bit of a gray area for us because we know that the engineering's been done, they've approved all that, and it's been completed. But the landscaping part of it has to be certain plants that also go along with the watershed aspect of things.
So can I just insert and say that it's my understanding from Sitework Studios and the engineer that all work has been complete. So I think that you guys need to submit something in writing to us, either approved plans that show landscaping on this site. It's hard for me to imagine that they would landscape all the way across the back of this lot because they aren't required to do that. And all that I'm saying is that the guidelines require that you provide foundation plantings, and parking and driveways have to be screened. So you do clearly have space to do that as far as the site plan is concerned that we're looking at right now. So unless there's some other, information submitted from Sitework Studios or the engineer for the project ACE, then I don't think that there's, anything else that, I guess we would just need some additional documentation from them to support what you're saying.
Yeah, I'll work on that, Alex, because I spoke with Kevin Kerr, as a matter of fact, 2 weeks ago regarding the project, because I've got all the emails back and forth from him and I regarding the fact that they asked us not to do anything yet back there because they still needed access and do their portion that they're still required to finish. And I was supposed to meet Kevin there last week, but unfortunately had a death in the family. We were going to meet on site, and he was going to show me exactly what they're still required to finish. And then once that happens, so I'm still waiting for him to come back into town. And then at that point, I'll be meeting with him on site and discussing the details. But by no means, I think that I'll pass it back over to Scott. I know that he's going to carry on with a landscaping plan. We've just been stalling on that right now until we get the rest of the information from Kevin and the folks over at the condo across the street. So, because there's miscommunication somewhere, because per them and last week that they still have work to do. Scott, back to you.
Sure. And with regard to the landscape, this isn't really intended to be a final landscape plan to allow for, or that I'm looking for approval on. It's a tentative landscape plan to delineate that, well, just as basically to check the box that I feel that I've presented something when, as we're proceeding, but we're not done on the backyard, and we will be back in front of you when we are ready. This is the plan I've been looking for, by the way.
Yeah, this is the approved plan for the Broadway development. Here's the subject property right here.
Can't see your cursor.
It's right here. If you're looking at the plan, it's the third one from the left.
Yeah, I see it. It's listed as Lauren and Michael Tamayo. Yeah. Yeah, I want to study this a little bit. Can I get a copy of this from you, Alex?
Sure, I can send it to you. From this vantage point of looking at this plan, there's, not a whole lot that really impacts the rear of this lot. So,
it's not directly on the lot, but it's everything that this lot looks at. And that's more what I'm trying to determine is what are we looking at across the stream? Do we need to put a buffer on ours so we're not staring at the back of these condo units? Or are they going to buffer their condo units so that we're not staring at the back of their condo units?
But they have to provide the stream buffer on the other side.
Agreed, and which is in
And
the
so you
view
could,
of
if you want to
this
look
side.
at the site plan, it has all the species listed on it. So
Mhm.
happy to share it with you.
Thank you.
Scott or anybody else on your team want to speak to anything else in the application before we take a quick pause for public comment and further discussion by the commission?
I have nothing further.
Okay. Commissioners, any questions for the applicant?
Yeah, between the front windows that on the second floor that break that band, what's happening on the windows there? If not, you might have to zoom in a lot to see it. And the 3/4 angle one is the one that, yeah.
So
in between the windows, there's a strip of flare, matching the left and the right, correct?
Sure. So the what this is the windows are interrupting the shingle flare. My computer just bastardizes it. And so it's looking as if this shingle flare sort of comes down straight over top of the windows, and that is not the case. It actually is just cut by the two windows, and there's these small, for lack of a better word, brackets that sort of cap the end of the crown that's coming around the beneath the eaves and across the front that comes up underneath the shingle flare. But it's really just the shingle flare is a very consistent flare with the windows interrupting it. Those four lines that extend up onto there with these alternating shadows and stuff, that's the bastardization that I can't get my computer to solve for me. And so, but if you could picture just a consistent shingle flare with these penetrations in it, this broken shingle flare, for lack of a better term.
But there's a bracket in the between the two windows.
Yes, it's the same
a minor
element that sort of comes up and sort of, holds up the shingle flare for, in an aesthetic way.
And the porch roof, is that metal?
It is represented as metal, yes. That is an alteration from the last time we were here.
But just so everyone is aware, the commission has not allowed the use of two different roofing materials before in Montford.
That's all I had right now. Thank you.
Commissioners, other questions before we take public comment? Okay, then we will open the floor for public comment.
Chair, there are no callers.
Okay, we will close the floor for public comment. Commissioners, further discussion?
I think they did a good job of addressing my concern from last month regarding the carport down below. I think the structure feels a lot more grounded now that there's solid wall down there. I share Alex's concern about the two front windows in the gable. I just feel that detail isn't something that you would typically see. We would probably have the window stop just below that gable flare and continue the gable flare across. I did notice on the north elevation, you popped a little window up there in the gable. And I would say that, if you wanted to get some light up higher, that would be more appropriate to me than as it's drawn on the front. But again, good job in taking what we said and advancing the drawings. The front porch, I don't have a concern. I think it looks better being wider. I think that's an improvement. I don't have any concern about the double column versus single column. But yeah, it looks good. Thanks.
Emily, I echo your feedback, certainly around the carport. I think that was a pretty impactful change in a good way. I also am pretty stuck on the front windows for the same reasons. I think in a more contemporary setting, it's a kind of an interesting detail in and of itself, but in the context of Montfort, I think we would struggle to find a solid precedent for that being in keeping with the historic character of the neighborhood. Scott, a couple of questions. There's a similar gable flare on the north gable that's got this sort of gable window in it. Is that true? It's a little hard to see from the renderings, but you would carry that same flare detail.
Yes, and again, my computer's sort of bastardizing it, running those lines down like that.
I can relate with when the computer doesn't do what you tell it to do. That certainly is something that happens. It looks like from your drawings too that you might be proposing metal roof also above the screened porch.
That is on there, yes.
Is that true? I think that would be something, some feedback from the commission regarding that change in roofing materials and whether you and your client would be open to making everything shingled. Which is more in keeping, I think, with decisions the commission's made, in terms of consistency. That would be something I think this group should talk about. But for me, I think I'm comfortable. I understand the reluctance to commit to the landscaping until you have a better sense of what you're going to be looking at with the condo project. But I think that certainly from our perspective, the stuff that we approve is the stuff that is intended to be sort of final commitment to a design and a proposed solution for the property. So at some point we'll need to kind of reconcile, Alex, with how to allow a project to move forward with some uncertainty back there, or if there is a way to move forward with uncertainty back there. Understanding obviously that it's winter and that you're a little bit at the mercy of sort of figuring out what's left to do with the condos and what you have to look at. But it's certainly addressing, Alex, your primary concern around foundation planting shouldn't have much in the way of change based on what's happening with the buffer between the zoning districts. And so I would, it'd be lovely to see some of that foundation planning extend along the sort of right property line and around the base of that carport in the back, to really be consistent with what the standards for the district require.
Yeah, and Scott, I just want to go back and clarify that, when we're looking at new construction projects, we don't necessarily expect that the entire site will be programmed with landscaping or other site features, et cetera. We're just looking at the requirements for new construction and what's required for just the, immediate area surrounding the house and the requirements for screening parking areas. And Shannon dug up another plan I can send you it's the grading plan for the Broadway site. And we can certainly talk with Kevin. I worked with Kevin on plenty of projects and that she thought she was assuming based on these grading plans, it probably was just some erosion control and then some minor landscaping in the area that was disturbed. So anyways, we can circle back on that, but I think at this point, it shouldn't really hold you up to add some more landscaping kind of immediately, as Chair Kite was saying, around that side of the house and along the parking area there.
Oh, sure.
Hopefully the landscape plan helps you identify if you think, what's going to happen on the, site across the stream, if that's going to be some substantial buffer. But then in the future, you don't need approval from us to plant, whatever you want back there. as screening other than, just what's required for this approval for the new construction project. So
Okay.
I hope that helps clarify. One thing real quick I wanted to ask the commissioners about before we move on. I meant to mention the brackets. I brought them up last time. I don't think brackets, generally speaking, on this house are a problem. I do kind of think it's a little bit unusual, though, the double brackets around that little casement window on the north elevation that you all were just talking about. And I kind of think, I think, if the change is made to the front elevation for the transom where that flare is kind of looking a little funky, I think that will help as far as the brackets on the front elevation, not in that gable and not appearing too busy. And I honestly have not seen any historic examples of houses in Montford where there are two different roofing materials, but I will leave that open, obviously, for you all to discuss.
Alex, I can't remember, is there anything in the guideline that prohibits two types of roofing?
No, we're just really basing our thoughts on what's, historically appropriate. And, in my 7 years with the commission, whenever it's come up, the commission has said no, that it wasn't historically appropriate to have two roofing types on one building.
Okay, thanks.
Sure.
Alex, do you have a material for the chimney stack? The chimney?
It's stucco. I think it's stucco to match the foundation. Is that correct, Scott?
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you.
Do we have at this point preliminary color selections for the materials?
There's a few. If you look in the revised packet that was received on the 17th of November, there's a couple of color swatches on about the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th something page of the application right before the site plan. It's got the natural stained cedar. Is that primarily around the front entrance?
Yes.
And then the rest of the trim is that graphite color with black windows?
Correct. And that connected gray has a fair amount of green in it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Yeah.
not sure if that's showing up on your screens or not.
You don't have-
Graphite is more of truly is a graphite color.
Mm-hmm.
I in looking at the plans, think that removing that that front double windows from breaking into that 3rd level would help, along with having one material for that porch would help ease away from the farmhouse that staff is noticing.
Mm-hmm.
And
when you say material, are you talking the roofing?
Yeah.
Then not to have a metal shed roof on the porch. The Alex, does that help bring down the farmhouseness of it? That I know what you're saying.
Yeah, I was, in considering my staff report, I was mostly looking at the streetscape plan as far as the colors. I think this color scheme will be more successful in kind of communicating the architectural style, making it more consistent with Montford. And I do think changing the roofing material to be a single roofing material, I think shingle would be the most appropriate for this house. But I don't know that I've seen any natural stained cedar porches, but that's not to say that you all can't approve that if you think it's appropriate.
Is the porch concrete itself, or is it wood?
Wood.
It was in the first iteration concrete, but I believe you changed it, Scott, so that it's wood, right? Yeah.
Correct.
And is that painted wood, or is that the natural stained cedar as well?
That would be a painted wood. And honestly, we'll talk about it some more, Gary and Lenore and I. As we changed our column details, I'm not sure that the natural stained cedar is still really relevant to our intentions as well. By the way, I'm not here specifically for a final approval. I was figuring I was going to do that in February. I really just wanted to sort of put the changes that we made back in front of you all to just make sure we're still on the right track with some of the concerns that the commission had last time.
Scott, it sounds like there's a good bit of consensus around the detailing of those front windows.
Okay.
In terms of how they break that gable trim and detail right there. I think that feels really contemporary. I think some of the other commissioners share that. Sounds like the roofing material change is another piece that is, we've had a couple of commissioners mention at this point. I think we're all tending towards having a consistent material for all of the roofing on the project. I think it'd be worth y'all's consideration to talk about the relevance of the natural cedar, in contrast with the rest of the painted trim and the painted deck boards on the front porch there, and presumably on the back, those back porch areas as well, to see if it's really, a significant impact to the project that you'd like to be able to keep. Other than that, I think the back is certainly successful with the carport, the way that you've got it sort of enclosed on three sides. Other comments from commissioners, or Scott, questions for the commissioner regarding some of the other changes that you have worked towards in this resubmittal?
I would just like to touch base on that rear porch roof, the metal one on the back. As it's drawn, keeping that roof lower than the upper porch, the porch that's up above it and behind it. Yeah, you can see it there. That roof is shallow enough that it requires some sort of, something other than asphalt shingles. I just want to sort of touch base of, whether that might be more agreeable as a metal roof, or is there another roofing material that allows for flat? I mean, would we want? I know there's membrane roofs in Montford quite often, but I don't know that those are an improvement. Anyway, does the commission have thoughts on that roof? And this has to do with just the shallowness of it.
Mm-hmm. Do you know, Scott, offhand what your slope is exactly?
I think it's 2 and 12.
Yeah.
Might be 1 and 12, but I think it's 2 or somewhere in that neighborhood.
3 is usually a good target for shingles. Anything lower than that gets problematic.
I think the alternative could be you do metal on the entire house then.
I think if metal was on the entire house, that would probably put it more towards the farmhouse feel, definitely.
But there's really nothing in the standards that say we can't do it that way.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. It's just
what about
the feel of it next to the neighbors.
Mm-hmm.
As far as the small roof on the back, though, that doesn't concern me as much as the front porch, because it's, hidden. You're not seeing it from the street.
I think I'll go that route. Just make it really clear in your reasons why you're making an exception in this case.
Well, it sounded like you had
in the standards, just on roofs itself, on number 9, metal roofing shall only be used as a replacement material. where it existed before. Does that apply to new Alex as well?
No, we would only apply that to historic houses. We're just looking at, as far as new houses, what roofing materials are commonly found in the district and what's most appropriate to the style of the house. And I do agree that metal would definitely kind of make this appear more like farmhouse. I was just offering that as an alternative, but if the commission feels like it's okay because it's not highly visible, and it's on the back, then I think that's fine. You just say that whenever you make your final rule or reason for the project.
Well, and I feel like it wouldn't be hard to do the justification for not just that it's in the back and not highly visible, but also that it is logistically unfeasible to have the matching material because it would set it up for failure. And that to me is a rather strong justification. The other thought I had is that if the entire roof were asphalt and just the rear portion that has the low slope is metal, would having it be, is it already in a matching color? Like if it sort of decoys in even further, that would also help ease the pain of a separate material. Just a thought. Otherwise, since I've got the floor, I want to say that you guys, it is definitely causing a lot less heartburn, and I completely agree with everyone folks have said, from the little transom-esque windows on the front facade gable to the oddness of the double brackets on the north side gable window, and then the considering the staining on the columns. So all good. With all the other commissioners all the way.
Scott, I just want to point out that, and I can, if you need a link to it, I can send it to you, but the guidelines for metal roofing in Montford are very specific in terms of what type of 5E and the dimensions for standing seam. So I can send that to you if it's helpful.
I've got them. I've read them.
Okay, good.
Well, and I would say certainly, Gail, in your point in terms of a shingle roof on that porch being kind of technically infeasible, a different design solution might eliminate the technical infeasibility as well. Potentially, there would be certainly, I would think there would be precedent in Montford for a flat roof in that situation too. That would be a membrane roof that's not visible. Some rethinking of the design in the back could eliminate the technical infeasibility altogether. I don't have particular, I certainly am less bothered by the metal in the back for the same reasons that everyone has been. But I think, leaving open the possibility for a design solution that doesn't require a compromise to what's commonly found in Montford is also, there's still opportunity potentially for that as well.
Good point.
The 6 windows that are just boxes, are those double hung windows, or why are those less illustrated, I'll say?
Which facade?
North and south.
North and south.
Basement. On the basement level.
I'm sorry. Those are openings to the carport. And there is no window there. It's cased the same as the windows. But they're just openings into the carport. There's another one behind the staircase on the east elevation. It's not as tall.
I guess I should have asked you about this, Scott. I was assuming they were like panels with trim to kind of mimic the window appearance, but I think that would be really unusual to have openings into the space with no windows.
I mean, we can install windows. It was just really and there's a great desire to have light down in there, some natural light into that carport. There's the door to the lower, not the one on the right, but the one sort of in the middle, as well as some other windows into a room back there. There's just some desire to have some light there. I just didn't put windows in there because it seems a little weird to have a window to two open air areas. Just, not necessarily what it looks like from the outside. It's just a weird condition. But that's what those are. It's not really per se a panel, or, right now it's a cased opening. It's just cased the same way as the windows adjacent to it on the south elevation. It's sized the same, cased the same. We're seeing through the carport on the north elevation to those same three.
Got it. Yeah, I'm defer to staff on. It does seem maybe another solution. Has there been? Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say, I guess you can defer to me, but I've never seen this before. So I would say, just based on my, years here, I've not seen this before, and I think it's pretty unusual looking, I would say. It also seems like, I know that it's open on the other side, so it's probably going to sound irrelevant, or maybe not, I don't know. It sort of seems like it might invite some safety issues. I don't know. I think it would be unusual. I would say either no openings, or at least include windows in the openings.
I think it's a really common solution in like the low country or sort of beachfront properties where you've got your house is up on stilts because it floods a lot and you get this sort of tidal surge right up at the beach, and they often sort of lattice in these carports or create these sort of window openings that don't have any windows in them as part of that solution, because a lot of the parking and stuff happens kind of underneath the houses. But it certainly, I think it would certainly read better from the outside for me if it had double hung windows in it that look just like the house windows. If you're looking at that south elevation, that window that's on the left on that level, and you sort of carry that same detail across, it would, I think, read better from the outside, even if it's a little bit strange on the, that it's just the carport. Scott, that enclosure is intended to be the same kind of material treatment as the rest of the foundation basement level?
Yes, stucco.
Mm-hmm. Other comments or questions from the commission? Scott, do you feel like you've gotten the feedback that you were looking for sort of on your timeline for coming back in a future month for final approval?
Yeah, I think so. I think obviously I need to talk to my clients and discuss the comments that have been made and how we would address them. But I think they're all within, the realm of a feasible sort of final presentation in a month and a half or so.
Mm-hmm. I think the next sort of logistic step for you would be to request a continuance to a future meeting. And Alex, maybe you can help us with those submittal dates.
Scott, you mentioned February earlier. Is that what your goal is, the February meeting?
Yes, it is.
Okay, then now you would just need to request specifically to continue to the February meeting, and then let's see, the resubmittal deadline for let's see, the resubmittal deadline is that's wrong month. January the 19th.
Before I make that request, I just want to defer to Gary and Lenora and see if they had any comments that they would like to discuss.
I think I'm good.
Me too. I'm good. Thanks a lot, everyone.
Thanks for taking a look at it again. Thanks.
Okay, then I would like to request a continuance till the February meeting.
Commissioners, is there a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
We will vote by roll call. Vice Chair Spring,
Aye.
Commissioner Lazarus,
Aye.
Commissioner Hornaday,
Aye.
Commissioner Gross,
Aye.
Commissioner West,
Aye.
myself, aye as well. And that motion carries.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay, moving on to new business in the agenda. The next project is a local landmark, the Von Ruck House in Albemarle Park. And Alex, I will let you kick us off with your staff report.
Thank you, Chair Kite. All right, so this is a pretty straightforward request for some window modifications at the Von Ruck House. I realize that probably most of you were not able to see the windows since they're on the interior, so I'm just going to guide you through what we're looking at. So there are some interior features. I don't know if everyone looked at the designation ordinance, but there are some interior features included on the structure as part of what's protected. And two of the spaces are the historic conservatories, so these kind of elliptical spaces. And just to give you all a little bit of context, this is actually this whole mass of building is was originally 3 different structures that were over time connected to each other. So the conservatory has these really cool big window openings on the interior. And the plan is to restore the number 1 and 2 windows to, sorry, now I'm on the other side. I was getting myself turned around when I started working on this. So 1 and 2 are being restored to just the opening. There aren't windows in them currently. And I guess maybe I just skipped adding them in here, or no, sorry, I put them on the, sorry, 1 and 2 are in the West Conservatory view, so that's here. And then the other 4 windows have non-original, like commercial type windows in the openings currently, 3 through 6, and those will be replaced with 1/1 windows. The house has as many 1/1 windows on it, so it'll just be a really simple sash. The application does include aluminum clad windows, but I talked with the applicant and let him know that the new windows would need to be wood, and so just need to get that spec from him whenever it's ready. We didn't communicate on that in enough time for him to have that for the meeting. So, and then lastly, there's a 7th window on the back that has been kind of hacked up. That is also not an original window. Then that will be replaced with a 1/1 window as well. So 5 window replacements of non-original windows, and then 2 just restoring the opening. So hopefully that makes sense to everyone, and I'm not noting any concerns except for that just need there to be a condition on the CA that the applicant submit the wood window specifications for staff review. And that's all I have on this project, but happy to answer questions.
Commissioners, any questions?
I have no questions.
Is there any additional information, Daniel, that you'd like to share?
No, thank you all for considering. Thanks for having me here. I don't think I have much to add on top of what Alex had said, but I too am happy to answer any questions you might have.
Commissioners, any questions for the applicant before we take public comment? Okay, then we're going to open the floor for public comment.
Chair, there are no callers.
Thank you. We will close the floor for public comment. Commissioners, any additional discussion?
Seems pretty straightforward. If nobody has concerns, I could read the motion.
Okay. Sounds like it.
All right. Madam Chair, based upon the evidence presented to this commission, including Exhibit A, application, photos and plans, 7 pages, Exhibit B, project description, Exhibit C, window specifications, 3 pages, Exhibit D, Von Ruck House Landmark Designation Report, 11 pages, Exhibit E, Von Ruck House Landmark Designation Ordinance, 4 pages, and the Commissioner's actual inspection and review of subject property by all members except I move that this commission approve the certificate of appropriateness based on the following. 1, that the application is to restore 2 existing window openings on interior of West Conservatory, replace 4 existing non-original commercial style windows on interior of East Conservatory with new 1/1 wood double hung windows, replace 1 existing non-original exterior window on west elevation with a new 1/1 wood double hung window. All work will be in accordance with attached drawings and plans. All permits, variances, or approvals as required by law must be obtained before work may commence. 2, that the Secretary of the Interior standards for rehabilitation, specifically the standards for windows, were used to evaluate this request. 3, this application does meet the design standards for the following reasons. A, windows are being replaced are not original or historic. B, new window units will be wood and compatible with the existing windows on the building and existing openings. 4, that the action and improvements proposed in the application before us for a certificate of appropriateness are congruous with the special historic character of the Von Ruck House.
Is there a second?
Second, Gross.
Okay, we'll vote by roll call. Vice Chair Sprang?
Aye.
Commissioner Lazarus?
Aye.
Commissioner Hornaday?
Aye.
Commissioner Gross?
Aye.
Commissioner West?
Aye.
And myself, aye as well. That motion carries.
Based upon the foregoing findings and for the reasons set forth therein, I move that a certificate of appropriateness be issued with the following condition: that wood window specifications will be submitted for staff review and approval.
Second, Lazarus.
Okay, we'll vote by roll call. Vice Chair Sprang?
Aye.
Commissioner Lazarus?
Aye.
Commissioner Hornaday?
Aye.
Commissioner Gross?
Aye.
Commissioner West?
Aye.
Myself, aye as well. That motion also carries. And I think we're ready to move to our next project.
Thank you, Chair Kite.
Alex, I think we need to do some swearing in too at some point. We want to catch that before
Thank you.
with Jamie before we start your staff report.
Thank you. I saw Jamie on here earlier, but I don't know if he.
I'm here.
Oh, you're here. Okay. Okay. Cool. There's Jamie and Lee are both here, so we can.
Okay, so we'll do for the next 2 projects, Jamie and Lee, I'm going to read the oath for your testimony, and I will ask you by name to swear or affirm when I'm done reading, okay? Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the information you present during the hearing for a certificate of appropriateness before the Historic Resources Commission shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Jamie Ashburn.
Yes.
Okay. Lee Duggar.
Lee, you're muted. Lee, can you unmute yourself?
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay,
Do you affirm?
I affirm, yes.
Thank you. All right, Alex, I think we're ready for 162 Flint Street.
Alrighty. So this application is, let me get where I need to be in my slideshow. Also a pretty simple request. I just included some photos in my slideshow to give you some context. The photo on the right is the front elevation of the house. It's kind of, it's set back from the street. It's a little bit hard to see this area if you didn't go creep around in Jamie's yard like I did. But the picture on the left, you're kind of looking at this is as you're walking up to where the porch the steps go up to the porch on the left-hand side of the house. So this is the south elevation that we're talking about. This is a photo looking directly up the area in question. So there's an existing deck here that is kind of interesting in that it extends off of the front porch, and then it does have a railing, but the railing, if you're standing where I'm standing, it's kind of hard to explain without seeing it in person. So like where I'm standing right here, I'm looking at Flint Street. The deck area is to the left, and then that railing is actually out beyond a little stone patio that's a step below the deck. That kind of threw me off at first. So just to explain that to you all, so that hopefully it makes a little more sense what the site conditions are like currently. The picture on the left on this slide is looking towards the backyard. And then here are the renderings. So existing is obviously sort of non-compliant. It's sort of hovering between a deck and a porch, but it doesn't have a covering on it, and it is on the side. So, if someone came to the commission in this day and age and wanted to put a deck on the side elevation, obviously we would not be able to approve that. So this, I think, is actually adding a covering over this little section of exposed deck is in some ways bringing it back to more of a conforming with the design standards. So the drawing on the bottom, this is basically existing and proposed. So bottom right, you're looking at this, gable end covering that will extend out over the existing deck. The only concern that I really noted to the applicant is the exposed gable end. I think in order for it to be consistent with the design standards, which state that new porches should be compatible with the existing structure in terms of roof form, scale, details, material, and color, I think that the gable end should be finished out, much like this little guy that's on the south elevation, in order for it to meet that standard. The other thing I've asked for is for a brick sample for this outdoor fireplace. We haven't had too many applications come through that have outdoor fireplaces, so it's a little bit of a one-off. I can say that we've had probably 2 or 3. Usually the fireplace was kind of more contained within a porch, but this will pretty much be visible from only this house. I don't see really any. So I don't really see any issue with it being in this location. And you will never really see the little chimney pipe from the front of the house either. So I'm not noted any concerns about that. There's already the existing railing that's kind of out beyond, and this is obviously the grade change from the deck actually to the ground is low enough to where they don't need a railing within the posts on this covering. So so in any case, I've not noted any other concerns except for the gable end really. And just one last slide to give you context. This is the area in question is the on the south elevation of the house. So that's all I have for the staff report, and any questions I'm happy to answer for you.
Alex, it looks like from one of the other drawings that's in our packet, there's a small-ish extension of that deck proposed, that new roof comes out, maybe 2 feet or so beyond the edge of that existing deck.
Yes, that's correct. Let me grab
extension.
Yeah, let me grab the other, let's see. Jamie sent me some stuff right before the meeting and I'm not sure what I did with it. Give me just a second, I'll find it. Here it is. Yeah, so it's three additional feet, I think. Yeah.
The teal color you see there is what's existing, and then the dark green would be the 3-foot addition on the deck.
Commissioners, are there other questions for Alex?
Alex, to close in that gable, would you match over that bay window for shingle or lap siding?
It's a good question. Let me go back to the photos. I would say shingle, since that's what's, would carry it, across to be most consistent with the existing gable end.
Thank you.
Jamie, is there any other information that you'd like to present to the commission?
I don't think so. I think the only thing about the gable opening there, I'm open to suggestions there. I would love to be able to somehow keep it open for light purposes. I think if I enclose that sort of top triangle or whatever you call that there, it would make it significantly darker underneath there. That's the only thing.
Commissioners, do you have any questions for the applicant? Okay, let's go ahead and open the floor real quick for public comment, and then we'll come back to our discussion.
Chair, there are no callers.
Okay, we'll close the floor for public comment. Commissioners, comments, questions, conversation about the proposed application? I think I've got a little bit of concern about the exposed gable end as well. I think it's a little bit of a challenge for 2 reasons. One, I think closing it in, it looks like the existing gable has that sort of little flare detail at the bottom that's kind of interesting. If we look to the porch, the wraparound porch that's to the right of where this porch would be, that's got sort of a hipped condition that's got a real shallow slope that sort of tucks in under the main eave line of the house, which is certainly the right solution on that side of the porch as it wraps around. It's not a straight sort of coming off the end with a gable. But I sort of wonder if that's a possible solution in this case. And the geometry may not work based on whatever the widths of that porch are, it may not be a good solution there. But I think there's not a lot of precedent for the exposed kind of truss framing in Montford. That certainly is a pretty contemporary detail.
Chair Kite, are you saying to make it a hipped roof
I'm
instead of an open?
just sort of wondering out loud, just in terms of looking how the porch that's to the right of that bay window, that would be, to the right of where this new roof would be, that's how that porch is addressed, is as a hip with a sort of low slope that tucks in under the eave. Now, the geometry is very different as it wraps around the corner, the corner of the house. The hip is the logical choice there, and it may not work in this case. But I'm sort of just wondering out loud, looking to the detailing that's already available at the house and how to.
The problem with mimicking the existing covering there, which I guess is a shed roof there, is the amount that it comes out. Is twice as far, I guess, and it would. By the time it gets to the end, because of the slope needed for shingles, it would be like 7 feet off the ground, maybe even 6 feet.
Well,
really low.
Yeah, hip would be different than a shed roof, because you would still come up to a ridge in the middle. So in this case, you see the sort of corner of the existing roof on the drawing that it's sloped on two sides at the corner instead of just shedding one direction. So, but it still may not work based on the width of the new porch. You'd have to play with it. I'm just suggesting that either of those two solutions to filling in the gable, or maybe a hip, might be more consistent with the detailing that's already present on the house than an exposed truss kind of gable end.
And there are, aside from this gable here, there's 3 other gables on the house already as well.
Do they all have that sort of flare detail?
They all are there. They all access into the attic, so they have that. I'm not sure what you're asking. If you're asking about that attic vent in the gable.
No, we're at the very bottom where it sort of swoops out a little bit, and maybe that's just a function of the pictures too.
Sorry, I'm not following.
I wish I could draw on your screen, Alex. This is a good picture. You see how the bottom of the shingles sort of flare out?
Oh, right.
Not a flat.
Yeah, I think that's the only spot that happens in.
This might be a really wacky idea, but what if the gable, what if it was as proposed, but instead of the open trussing, it was enclosed with shingles, and then there was a faux vent that didn't have the louvers in it, so it was just open, almost like a little window, but it kind of mimics the same appearance as the other gable end, so that you could at least get some light through there. Does that sound like a crazy idea?
I don't think it sounds like a crazy idea, personally.
Yeah, I think that sounds like a compromise solution to, if you close the gable, then it looks more like the rest of the house, but you can still get sky view if you opened up, basically a window there without the window in it. Is that kind of what you were thinking, Alex?
Yeah, so you would just basically have the same shape as the little vents that are on the existing gables, and then you just wouldn't have the interior louvered part or the venting part. It would just be open, like a little window. so that you could at least get some light in there, Jamie, because I do understand that like having something up a little higher, you know, brings the light in to kind of direct it at the, you know, probably where you're going to be sitting in the space. So I understand what you're after.
When you say shingles, you're referring to the shakes. Is that what you mean?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Right. So just leaving it open without even the timber frames that are, you know, going at the 45-degree angles or whatever there, that also does not, just having it open at all, I guess, is not really conforming.
I mean, I'll defer to the commissioners, but I think it doesn't, it still reads as more like this kind of contemporary feature than that's not necessarily consistent with like the historic gables on the house. If it's just open.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. With that, Alex.
It doesn't make, and it also doesn't make a difference that it's not visible at all, right? I mean, not that it should make a difference, I guess, because you're trying to make sure it's conforming, but this, like, I don't think there's a single person that would be able to see this gable because I'm elevated, you know, away from the other houses, and it's not facing the street, obviously, either. But I'm not sure if there's anyone that would ever even see it.
I think it still is the issue of meeting that standard of being compatible with the existing structure, you know, being consistent with those other gable ends, regardless of how visible it is, I guess. Any of the commissioners have?
I mean, I think that we certainly talk about rear elevations quite a bit in terms of there being things that are more opportunity for variety on the backs of houses. But in this particular case, I'm inclined to follow the, you know, compatibility with the detailing that's present on the house and the standard that you cited.
Okay.
Other commissioners' thoughts in either in agreement or otherwise?
I'm aligning with
follow
you and
along.
other commissioners.
Will?
As well as, yeah, and that does in the open window box to allow some light in if it's not in the way of in the middle of structure, the support structure. Is it the window?
It doesn't have to be. No, I don't think so.
Okay, then, yeah.
I have
So
a
cedar shake.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Emily. I'm sorry.
Oh no, go ahead and finish. I had a different thought altogether.
And that's all I had to say.
Okay, I had a unrelated question on the size of the supports for the porch. It's hard for me to see on the drawing because it's not close enough. But what were the sizes of those posts?
6 by 6.
6 by 6. Okay, that's all.
Yeah, I was gonna add, I didn't know if those beams were a little bit chunkier, if that would make it look a little less contemporary, but if they're already 6'6", that's pretty big. Or if where it meets the roof, if it also had a beam that came, I don't know what you'd call it, a soffit maybe, but that sort of mimic the same width. And that way there doesn't appear to be so much, like you still get light in there, but it's not quite as open as it appears right now.
Jamie, the posts that are on the existing wraparound porch, are those 6x6?
Yes.
Yeah. And these will be a little bit taller, but the taller is going to help with the light too, in comparison to the kind of light that you get on your wraparound porch with
Right.
that view that's much lower.
Yeah. Yeah, I hope so. 'Cause that the wraparound covering makes that room that's there, which is the living room, quite dark.
Yeah. Yeah. It sounds like we've got, there are other comments before I summarize where we're at this point?
I have no additional comments.
Sounds like we've got a little bit of consensus happening with the gable end and how that's configured. Jamie, which would be a change to what you've proposed. I think that that's been certainly the bulk of the feedback from the commission. It sounds like, Alex, there's still some questions to be answered around how the big fireplace is constructed and the materials and samples for those as well. I don't know, Jamie, if you've gotten that far in your process to have some better answers around the fireplace.
I haven't. The guy who would be my mason is obviously backed up like everyone, and
right.
hasn't been able to get to me. So, but he did tell me he could pretty easily match the existing brick chimneys on the house. So, but I could easily submit a sample to Alex. How would you verify it matches the existing brick on my chimneys if I don't have a loose brick, I guess, from my chimney?
You really probably just have to do it from a photograph.
Okay.
And I don't have a strong opinion that it has to be an exact match to the brick chimneys on the house. I mean, I think it's ideal if it does, but I don't unless the commission thinks otherwise. But I think these are all things that the commission could make, like the change to the gable end and the final fireplace and brick choice could be staff level review. I'm totally fine with that because it seemed like you guys were all in consensus on what the gable end should look like as far as the finished materials and appearance. So, and I see that to me, the brick fireplace it's almost a landscape feature, even though it's going to be within this little porch to me. I don't know if the commission sees it that way, but I see it as kind of like not the most, it's not going to be very visible. I think, we can easily work with Jamie at staff level to review what the final choice is for the fireplace.
So Jamie, I think your two options based on the feedback from Alex and from the commission at this stage would be to either amend your application verbally to describe the changes to the gable end that we have discussed today, in which case the commission could entertain a motion to approve the CA with those conditions around you providing some updated drawings to Alex with the gable end change and also the details around the fireplace. That would be the first option. The second option would be, if you've got some considering still to do, would be to request a continuance and to follow up with Alex.
And verbally.
Okay.
Verbally do it now. You may go ahead and do that now.
Yes.
So I can I'll change the gable opening so it is cedar shake, some mirroring the gable next to it there in the bay window, with a window opening similar to the window opening there on the gable, and change it that way, and then I can submit brick samples to Alex for approval when I get to that stage.
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion.
Okay.
Madam Chair, based upon the evidence presented to the commission, including Exhibit A, application and plans, 7 pages. Exhibit B, photos of subject property, 5 pages. Exhibit C, additional photographs taken by staff December 7th, 2021, 3 pages. Exhibit D, site plans, 2 pages, received December 8th, 2021. Was there another exhibit? Nope. And the commission's actual inspection and review of the property by all members except. I move that this commission approve the certificate of appropriateness based on the following: that the application is to extend existing deck out 3 feet and construct gable end roof covering over existing deck on south elevation. Covering will be supported by 6x6 wood posts and will have asphalt shingles matching the roof. Roof matching existing. All wood elements will be painted to match house. Is there a window installed? Is that now? We talk about that. And an open window matching that above the bay window. Painted to match house. Construct new brick fireplace within covered area. Chimney will vent through metal chimney pipe. All work will be in accordance with attached drawings and plans. All permits, variances, or approvals as required by law must be obtained before work may commence. 2, that the standards for porches, entrances, and balconies found on page 72 through 73 of the Montford Historic Design Review Standards adopted April 14, 2010 and amended December 9, 2019 were used to evaluate this request. 3, this application does meet the design standards for the following reasons: new porches being constructed in place of existing non-compliant deck on south elevation. New porch is compatible with existing structure in terms of roof form, scale, details, material, and color. C, new porch will not obscure any character defining features. Number 4, that the actions and improvements proposed in the application before us for a certificate of appropriateness are congruous with the special historic character of the Montford Historic District.
Second, Lazaris.
Okay. We'll vote by roll call. Vice Chair Spring.
Aye.
Commissioner Lazaris.
Aye.
Commissioner Hornaday.
Aye.
Commissioner Gross.
Aye.
Commissioner West.
Aye.
Myself, aye as well. That motion carries.
Based upon the foregoing findings and for the reasons set forth therein, I move that a certificate of appropriateness be issued with the following conditions. Revised drawings will be submitted for staff review and approval.
Okay, roll call vote again. Vice Chair Spring.
Aye.
Commissioner Lazaris.
Aye.
Commissioner Hornaday.
Aye.
Commissioner Gross.
Aye.
Commissioner West.
Aye.
Myself, aye as well. That motion also carries.
Thanks, Jamie. I'll follow
Okay.
up with you in the next few days or so.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, our next application is also in the Montford Historic District at 327 Montford Avenue. Alex, I think we're all sworn in at this point, so we can proceed with your staff report.
Okay, thank you. The application for 327 Montford Avenue is, sorry, I lost my headphones. They're proposing a 3-foot tall metal picket fence in the front yard. This is the first fence we've had in the front yard we've had in a while. I know we talked about gates a lot for the one on Pearson more recently. But just to give some kind of general information for some of our newer appointees on fences in front yards in Montford. Generally, fences in front yards were not super common historically in Montford. There are some historic examples, a few metal picket fences. The most common type of front yard fence or fencing found in the district was locust post with wire. Historically, this area was more rural in its character. So mostly it was like kind of open, open landscape that had this kind of real, like just basically fences were not super commonly found. So they are discouraged by the guidelines, essentially creating a visible boundary where one didn't previously exist is discouraged by the guidelines. The commission has approved fences in front yards in some very limited circumstances. And I can go through, I've been here long enough to see a handful of fences come through, and I can tell you they've always been these kind of like hotly debated items. So I can go through kind of some of the examples, especially the ones that are immediately adjacent to this property, since they were noted as examples by the applicant in his application packet. So the fence on the bottom left is immediately next door to this house, or 2 houses down. I can't recall. I think it's 331 Montford, something like that. And this fence actually was we amended the guidelines in 2016. At that point in time, the guidelines required only wood picket fences in front yards in Montford to go to the commission for major work review. I was seeing this kind of, back then I was still reviewing minor works, and I was seeing this kind of proliferation of fence applications in front yards that was making me uncomfortable as a staff person to approving. It just seemed more subjective than what staff should be approving. So the metal picket fence on the bottom left was the impetus for us going to the community and saying, hey, do you agree that, these guidelines related to fences in front yards being discouraged? Do you agree that, we think this is of concern and we want to make all fences in front yards in Montford go to the commission? So they agreed, and we amended the guidelines at that time to require all fences go to the commission. But the one on the bottom left was approved as a minor work before that happened, since it technically does meet the standards and being metal, and it is consistent with architectural style of the house. The one on the top right came to the commission a few times. The first time around, it was part of the overall renovation package for this house. At that point in time, the commission was not supportive of, it seemed like there was not consensus. There were definitely commissioners who were strongly opposed to approving the fence. So at that point in time, it was the contractors that were the applicants for the renovation project. So they elected to withdraw the fence. It got resubmitted at a later date and ultimately approved by the commission, primarily because there's a bus stop in front of this property. And the property owners felt like I guess there were people that were waiting. There's not a place to sit to wait for the bus at this particular location there. Unfortunately, based on the photo on the right, it looks like they never planted the required landscaping that was supposed to go in front of the fence. And that was definitely a stipulation that the commission made, as they did with the fence on Pearson, for that kind of larger property where we were looking at the gates more recently. That one also was approved, if some of you will recall, because there had been a fence on that parcel before. There was a chain link fence and they were replacing it. So the commission had very specific reasons in those two instances to, they made very specific reasons for supporting fences in those two locations. Other than that, I've seen the commission allow wood picket fencing on Magnolia Avenue and Short Street because they have much shallower yards. They're, picket fences kind of already existing in those areas. So those are kind of the limited spaces that the commission has felt like they were historically appropriate to the neighborhood. There's also a standard that says that I think it reads something like, you pull up my design standards, that says that basically fences may not be appropriate for prominent properties. This is a newer house, so I don't know, we don't define what prominent properties mean, but certainly the kind of more expansive lawns on Montford and Cumberland Avenue are to me where I see like the visual impact being a negative one as far as allowing fencing to proliferate without, having a very specific reason and a given circumstance outside of just I have safety needs or I have a dog. And I do think, and I'll let Lee speak to this on behalf of the property owner, but it does seem like there's space in the rear yard to accommodate fencing if it is for the purpose of, say like having pets or children run around with some sense of security. So in any case, I am not recommending in favor of this fence. And with that, I'm happy to answer questions if the commission has any for me.
Alex, there's a site plan in our packet that shows some proposed landscaping. Do you have any feedback on?
I didn't include any notes on landscaping. We generally don't even require a CA for landscaping. They're kind of just making improvements to the existing landscaping. So I didn't note any concerns there.
Okay. Other questions for Alex? Lee, is there any additional information that you'd like to provide for the commission? I think you're probably muted.
Okay.
There we go.
Got me now? Okay.
Yep.
Across the street, there is some perennials planting, and I don't know if that was part of the consideration, having a buffer between the sidewalk, kind of facing the fencing somewhat. But there is that proposal, and I didn't know also if the setback, if it made any difference. It may or may not, if it's further back than the 3 feet that I had suggested, to get it further back into the front yard. So the client just presented me with the idea to see if it would make sense. And one of the issues is a couple of them was safety. And then of course, that was the primary one. I think they do have a guest parking spot, a gravel parking area coming off the street for an apartment they have in the back. I'm not sure. So that was another topic that came up about kind of keep creating some separation. So when they walked by to the back entrance. So those are the only comments I have.
Commissioners, any questions for the applicant? Okay, we're gonna open the floor for public comment.
Chair, there are no callers.
Okay, we will close the floor for public comment. Commissioners, any discussion or comments about the application?
I mean, I think the guidelines are pretty clear with discouraging fencing.
I would
agree, and I with staff as well on the fencing and especially in the front yard. And the more of that fencing, it's really changed. It changes that corner across the street a bit visually, and I'd inclined to vote against approval.
I would agree with staff as well. It does seem to me that in the past, the ones that the commission has approved are the ones that are sort of the extraordinary circumstance type of cases. So I would also be opposed.
I think I fall in that boat as well, and I think not that this is any bearing on this current application, but I think there's conditions that we also discuss pretty heavily when we consider fences in those extraordinary circumstances, and buffering and screening and landscaping of those things are pretty important in those conversations. And so it's hard to I don't know that there's been a compelling extraordinary circumstance presented in this particular situation that would change my mind in terms of what the standards say.
So it sounds like there's pretty much consensus from the commission. Lee, I think, your options would be to just ask for a vote today. Sounds like it may not be approved, or you can withdraw the application, whichever you would prefer. If the kind of one thing important to point out is that if you elect to have the application go through a vote and they vote no, then you can't resubmit an application for the same thing in the future. And Janice, does that have a time limit on it? I don't know where. Oh, there she is. You're muted.
It hasn't come up in a long time. It may be the same as when we have a planning approval, which is you can't resubmit for a year.
I think that's what I recall too.
But if the guidelines don't change, I don't. In this situation, I can't see why somebody would submit the same application.
Right. I just wanted to point that out, just so you were aware of that, Lee.
Okay, thanks.
Alex, I had a quick question for you real fast. Is that wheel stop on this on that secondary parking area in the front yard, is that drawing more attention to the parking in the front yard than
I don't really think so. We've allowed those before. Is the wheel stop gonna be like just concrete, or
where the parking, the P-Stone parking area is?
Yeah.
I really haven't moved that far on it. I think it was going to be something more native, like a Locust 6x6 spiked in.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I think that would be fine. I don't think you'd really notice it. Does the commission have concern about that? We've allowed, they've been is obviously more typical for a commercial property to have those, but we've allowed concrete, we've allowed kind of concrete colored synthetic bumpers, just so that it kind of blends in with whatever the paving is what we've typically gone with in the past, but it doesn't come up very often. So
yeah, it'd be like a 6x6, 8 feet long timber was the idea.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be helpful to see that, Lee, because we definitely have not allowed like railroad ties or things.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Alex, if the fence is eliminated from the application, is there really even an application process necessary?
I mean, I guess technically we should probably issue a CA for the bumper if that's a new feature within the landscape, but we could obviously just do that at as minor work. So if he wants to amend the application to take the fence out, then we can just call it and I can we can review it and issue a minor work CA for the other site improvements.
Well, I'm inclined just to go ahead and withdraw the application based on our conversations for the fence.
Okay, I think probably if you're just saying you want to take the fence out of the application and withdraw that, then
that portion of it. Right?
Yeah, okay, then we can just review the rest as minor work.
And then do I get approval for the landscape minor work part of it?
Yeah, we'll just do that work with you after this meeting to get that issued to you.
Okay. Yeah, the project won't be till spring, more than likely now, March.
Yeah, typically we can issue a minor work pretty quickly, especially obviously now that we've already reviewed it. So we really just need to confirm what the bumper material will be for the stop. And once we have that box checked, we can just get the CA to you, no problem.
Sure. Okay. And it may be that they don't even do that, but I'll certainly send you when needed a picture of what that would look like.
Okay. Alrighty, so.
Is there anything we have to do motion-wise as a commission for this to do?
No, I don't think so, right, Janice? It's just that he's amending the application to take the fence out. The rest of it is minor work. We don't really need to do anything, correct?
Right. I think we've got enough of that on the record because you're not moving forward with any part of it now. So you're fine. No motion.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. All right, Lee. Well, I will follow up with you in the next couple of days.
Okay. Thanks, Alex.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Next on the agenda is 6 Houston Street, also in Montford. And we'll start off with Alex with your report.
Okay, thank you. So this is for construction of a new primary structure. I'm just looking at the square footage I listed in my staff report, which is totally incorrect. It's a pretty small little one-story house in one of the newly subdivided lots on Houston Street. Sorry, I'm going to try to pull up the new construction worksheet real quick so I can tell you what the correct square footage is. 1,320. So as you can see from the site plan and the GIS map, this is located kind of near, it's located behind a house that was recently approved and is under construction. So here are the perspective renderings, and I can pull up the elevations. I didn't include them in my presentation. I was just included the perspectives I thought they were most helpful. But it's a fairly simple little bungalow structure. Charles and I have gone back and forth a little bit on the windows. This was the first iteration that we looked at together when we had his pre-application meeting. And I noted that, maybe a more Craftsman style, or like a 3/1 or 4/1 window with only vertical mullions would be the better option. But this is his first choice. And after kind of driving around through Montford, Charles submitted some examples too of different window styles on bungalows in the district. And after kind of driving around and looking at them, there are plenty of examples of 6/1, 4/1, 2/1. There's all different. So I kind of am not going to hold fast onto my window thought, but this is it. Just so you guys know, this is like the more recent revised set. The first iteration included like a covered parking piece on the right hand side of the house, and I discouraged that from being included in the design. So Charles has amended the plans based on my feedback, and I think overall this is probably one of the more straightforward new construction applications I've seen come through, and I don't really have too much concern. I did know that the front porch posts are 6 by 6, excuse me. And I wondered if they might be a little bit wider just to kind of more clearly read as bungalow, but that's also not a strong concern. I think that overall the design of the front porch is consistent with other bungalow style porches found in the neighborhood. The color palette is kind of more basics down on the right hand side, just more basic kind of single color, which also I noted as just something to put out there for discussion. But I do agree that there's kind of a variety of different color choices for bungalow style, although in our design standards they're kind of listed out as having more earth tones. But I think that there's plenty of room for variation on that in Montford. And I think I think I'm looking at the wrong staff report. Like I think I just printed this and it's got all the information from the other new construction project we were looking at, and maybe I made some errors on this or didn't edit it accordingly. But I think that I initially had some concerns about the lack of landscaping shown on the plans, but the applicants did submit a revised landscaping plan based on my feedback, which is in the packet, to include some more foundation plantings and a variety of plant material to screen the parking and foundation plantings and some trees. So overall, I really think this is a kind of a no-brainer, if you will, for a primary structure design, and I don't see any issues around approving it. So if you have any questions, I am happy to answer, and I can pull up any of the other drawings if it's helpful.
Alex, on the site plan, we're considering, this is one of those really steep sites that we subdivided, right?
Right.
We're going to talk a little bit about parking in the front yard again.
Yeah, but I think, this one, at least the house is small enough and designed to really allow for the parking to be off to one side. So this is just that part of the neighborhood where everything's very tight. And I think that Charles did a good job of listening to my feedback and really bringing the parking as far over as possible.
Yeah, I misread the plan. I misread it a little bit and thought that little notch in the basement was a carport, but it doesn't. Now that I study it more carefully with the site plan, that's not the case. Okay, that was my only question.
Alex, that water feature on the front, that's what, how common is that?
I mean, I don't know. I couldn't tell you, because I'm sure that there are plenty of places in Montford where people have built like little garden ponds that we just don't know about. We don't get super down on the weeds in terms of landscape unless it's related to new construction, or if it's kind of more of a vertical feature within the landscape. I don't have a lot of heartburn about having a small garden pond in the front yard. I don't, but that's not something that I've seen in an application before. So I think that's, if you all have concerns about that, you should, talk about it and try to come to a consensus on whether or not you think it makes sense for this location or not. I did get an application recently for a waterfall feature that I could safely say was not appropriate to Montford, but it was bigger, kind of more like, like something you'd see in the forest versus in a, in an urban neighborhood. So, but this to me, it just reads more like a softening in the landscape, I guess.
Well, it doesn't feel like there's a lot of sort of alteration of the topography to make it happen really easy, and would be easily reversible, if there was another property owner or whatever. Are there other questions for Alex? Charles, do you have anything else that you'd like to share with the commission?
Well, let's start in reverse order, I guess. The little pond that I want to do, I didn't know whether that was required as a part of this application or not, so I thought it would be better to disclose it and include it. And I will also say that I did the Montford Garden Tour this spring and found lots of delightful small water features, and that is what generated this idea. And one in particular is a little house on Short Street, a tiny little bungalow that had a tiny little water feature right adjacent to the front walk going up to the porch. And it's very attractive visually, and just sort of a little babbling brook. There was enough of a noise to let you realize there's water there. And I just thought it was very attractive. And I certainly, this is going to be small in keeping with the house, and you'll have to walk right past it to see it, probably. I'll probably landscape rather heavily around it with grasses and things like that to pretty much hide it all except the stone coping that would go around it. The other comment, I guess, is I initially wanted the little carport on the side. I couldn't find a precedent in Montford. There's one on Fulton Street in 5 Points, a little bungalow similar in size and form to mine that has a little porte cochere off the side, and I really wanted that for a couple of reasons. As you can see, I'm getting a little bit long in the tooth, and I just thought it would be nice to be able to get from my car to the house without having to worry about rain, snow, sleet, heat, whatever. But additionally, parking in this area is, we are very, parking is a premium, and it's already congested. And I thought that if I put a little porte cochere off to the side, it would then create a place for me to park and then an additional car behind me in the driveway. But that's gone, and so now I'm left with the one little parking pad for me. I happen to know what's coming next. The house that you just approved behind me on Cortland, that's Aaron Zalin. I've gotten to know him pretty well. He is going to build, and that has a separate ADU under it. And he is going to build the same type of thing. He also owns the lot next to me to the south on Houston, and he's going to build the same type of thing there. And I think when he does that, it's also going to have a separate ADU under it. He starts to get into that curve where parking is not allowed. So when he builds there with an ADU underneath, the parking, which is already bad, is going to be badly exacerbated. So I was trying to do what I could to eliminate as much of a parking problem as I could. Other than that, I don't have any comment. I think we've worked through the windows. If Alex is happy now with the 4/1 that I've shown, I'm open to other options if the commission wants to discuss that. The porch, I think we've worked through that.
Commissioners, do you have any other questions at the moment for Charles?
I have no further questions.
We will open the floor for public comment.
Chair, there are no callers.
Thank you. We'll close the floor for public comment. Commissioners, other comments and discussion on this application?
I agree with Alex on her assessment of this plan. It's it seems to fit into the neighborhood really well. It fits into the spot really well. And it's honestly a sweet looking little bungalow.
I certainly agree, and I appreciate the sort of the relationship that the house has to the site. I think sometimes we see projects that really try to maximize every square inch of house that could possibly fit on some really small houses, and I think this one has a really nice balance to it that we don't always see, and has been really sensitive to its placement and its style and its scale in comparison to its lot size and things. So I really appreciate that. It's not very often that I think a first go at a new construction in the district is so in line with, I think, what we look for as a commission, and in terms of how it matches with the standards. I think it's a pretty successful first go at it for sure.
I definitely agree. It's a lovely little bungalow, and I have no concerns.
I agree as well. It looks like it really fits well with the rest of the houses in Montford and the surrounding area.
Yeah, I'm on the same page. It's super cute.
I agree as well. I have one question for the architects of the and the homeowner, and really callers, anybody who wants to mention this. If you go down one picture, Alex, to 22, please. Mr. Cushman, the front porch height of the railing, it's right at the bottom of you're doing everything right. It's at the bottom of the what is that height of the porch railing, covered railing?
I think the code will require it to be 36 inches not because of
Is there a drop off?
Yes, because of the drop off on the north side.
Oh, on that one side.
Yeah. On the front, it could be lower probably by code, but you're right. If the drop off exceeds, I think 30 inches on the side, it's got to have a 36-inch high.
Correct.
Yeah, sometimes it just sometimes looks a little leggy compared to like your next door neighbor with the rail one.
Right.
Probably a little shorter, but there's no drop off. It's just sometimes that visually doesn't read as historic-y when it has that extra 2 or 3 inches. That's not. I think you've done a wonderful job at the house, and I'm eager to see the water feature. And but is there a way around? Is there any other concern on the commission with that? Know what I'm saying?
With the railing?
Yeah.
So we can't, there's a provision in the building code for historic buildings to retain historic railing heights, but they're not for new construction. If the code dictates that the railing has to be 36 inches, then it has to be 36 inches. We don't have.
On all sides. Okay. And it would look weird if it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Taller, but there wouldn't be a way to make it smaller unless the grade around the porch changed to minimize the drop off.
Thank you.
Do you think it would look funny if we lowered it to 30 inches on the street side and the other tiny little 3-foot leg that's to the south, and then left the one area higher that is required to be at that height by code?
I think having it a consistent height as it turns the corner is probably better. Alex, can you switch to the next slide that's got some of the precedent photographs that we looked at? I think one thing that's maybe true in all of those pictures, regardless of what the dimension is, they all really align with the sill height of those windows, right? I think for me, that's the relationship that feels more important than, you know, playing with an exact measurement. If we've got to have a 36 high railing, then, you know, for example, the yellow house in the upper left corner feels a lot lower to me, but it feels like also their sill height is dropped maybe lower towards the ground. And so that relationship in all of these cases feels like there's pretty good alignment with the sills of those windows and the railing height. And the example in the lower right corner is probably that 36 high. You can see the porch, you know, the grade around the porch is much lower with all the steps in the front.
I mean, it's rendered pretty close here. It probably is going to come up a little bit higher, but I mean, I guess alternatively, the window size could be slightly smaller, but I honestly think you probably won't even notice that for this house very much. I mean, I notice it on historic houses if it's been changed, but
well, and I would say, Alex, I feel like this is doing the same thing that those example photographs are doing in terms of its relation to the sill. So that was not a critique. That I think there was that I thought it wasn't done the same. I think it's certainly drawn consistent where that sill height and the railing height is the same.
Okay.
The windows are designed to be 36 inches from the finished floor, so they should align exactly, Emily,
Right.
you are discussing.
Thank you. I hope that wasn't a rabbit hole. Thanks.
Commissioners, are you okay with me making a motion? Madam Chair, based on the evidence presented to this commission, including Exhibit A, application and project description, 3 pages, Exhibit B, site plan, Exhibit C, photos of subject property, 3 pages, Exhibit D, photos of nearby fencing, 3 pages. Wait a minute, is this the right one? Nope, sorry. All right. Madam Chair, based upon the evidence presented to this commission, including Exhibit A, application and new construction worksheet, 5 pages, Exhibit B, arborist report, Exhibit C, photo of subject property, Exhibit D, subject property plat, Exhibit E, drawings and plans, 6 pages, Exhibit F, revised drawings and plans, 6 pages, Exhibit G, revised new construction worksheet, received December 7th, 2021. Exhibit H, revised plans, 6 pages, received December 6th, 2021. Exhibit I, revised plans, 6 pages, received December 7th, 2021. Exhibit J, bungalow photo examples, 4 pages, received December 6th, 2021. Exhibit K, revised landscape plan, also received December 6, 2021, and the Commission's actual inspection and review of subject property by all members except I move that this Commission approve the certificate of appropriateness based on the following. 1, that the application is to construct 1-story, 1,320 square foot primary structure with stucco foundation, smooth Allura fiber cement lap siding, and wood shingle siding with 6-inch reveal, and asphalt shingle roof in pewter gray color. Front entry will be set within covered porch with wood tongue and groove flooring, 6-inch by 6-inch Miratech wrap support posts and railing faced with lap siding. Windows will be JELD-WIN 4/1 SDL aluminum clad double hung in black color. Doors will be JELD-WIN wood half light. Construct 10-foot wide by 18-foot long concrete driveway and stucco retaining wall adjacent to northern property boundary. Construct flagstone walkway connecting street, driveway, and front entry. Construct concrete slab landing beneath house at rear entry. Install Mitsubishi mini split unit adjacent to north elevation foundation. Plantings will be installed. Ground cover must be established within 15 days of completion of construction, and the remainder of the landscaping must be installed within 3 years. If archaeological resources are discovered during site work, work will cease until city staff have been notified and have inspected the site. All work will be in accordance with attached drawings and plans. All permits, variances, or approvals as required by law must be obtained before work may commence. 2, that the standards for new construction, primary structures found on pages 92 to 93, walkways, driveways, and off-street parking on pages 50 to 51, landscaping and trees on pages 40 to 41, fences and walls on pages 36 to 37, decks on pages 38 to 39, utilities and mechanical systems on pages 82 to 83, lighting on pages 42 to 43, and archaeology on pages 32 to 33 in the Montford Historic District Design Review Standards adopted on April 14, 2010, and amended December 9, 2019, were used to evaluate this request. 3, this application does meet the design standards for the following reasons. A, new primary structure is cited so that it is similar to the historic pattern in terms of orientation, setback, retention of green space, and spacing between structures. B, new primary structure is designed so that the overall character of the adjacent streetscape and building site is maintained. C, new primary structure is compatible in height, roof form, scale, massing, footprint, material, detail, fenestration, and proportion with surrounding historic buildings and other historic buildings in the district. D, location and size of window and door openings are compatible in placement, orientation, spacing, proportion, size, and scale with surrounding historic buildings. E, materials and finishes are typical of those found in the district. F, new walkway and paved area will be compatible with the site and district in terms of dimension, configuration, materials, color, and texture. G, mechanical unit will be located adjacent to the side elevation and will be screened. 4, that the action and improvements proposed in the application before us for a certificate of appropriateness are congruous with the special historic character of the Montford Historic District.
Second, Lazarus.
Okay, we'll vote by roll call. Vice Chair Spring?
Aye.
Commissioner Lazarus?
Aye.
Commissioner Hornaday?
Aye.
Commissioner Gross?
Aye.
Commissioner West?
Aye.
Myself, aye. That motion carries.
Based upon the foregoing findings and for the reasons set forth therein, I move that a certificate of appropriateness be issued.
Second, Lazarus.
Okay, voting again. Vice Chair Spring?
Aye.
Commissioner Lazarus?
Aye.
Commissioner Hornaday?
Aye.
Commissioner Gross?
Aye.
Commissioner West?
Aye.
Myself, aye. That motion also carries.
All right, Charles, you are one of the lucky few who make it through with new construction in one hearing. So thanks for working with us, and I'll follow up with you in the next few days or so on next steps.
Thank you very much, everyone. And I also want to remind the commission that I, like Alex, am a South Carolinian. And the last time someone said no to any of us, we started a Wawa, as my grandmother would call it. Thank you very much.
See you later.
Thanks,
Bye.
Charles.
Okay, Alex, it looks like you've got one or two other, at least one other agenda item.
Just one other agenda item, and it's not fun, but we had a commissioner that was appointed back. She's a city appointee that was appointed by the council back in August and just like completely went MIA, has like never really responded to any of our correspondence and obviously has not been to any meetings. So in keeping with the rules of procedure, I'm asking the commission to make a recommendation that her seat be vacated. So this has come up once in the past couple of years with a different commissioner, and you're basically just recommending to the council that they vacate her seat, which obviously they would support if she's not attending or participating at all. So that's the item that is another business that we just need to take care of today.
Feels like an easy recommendation to make. Do we need a motion?
Yes, please.
Okay.
So I can make a motion that her seat be vacated due to non-attendance.
I'll second.
Okay. Vice Chair Spring. We're voting. Commissioner Lazarus.
Aye.
Commissioner Hornaday.
Aye.
Commissioner Gross.
Aye.
Commissioner West.
Aye.
Myself, aye. That was easy.
Yep, that was all I had. Unless you all have anything you want to discuss. I'm good.
I don't think so.
Okay, well, happy holidays to everyone. Congratulations to you, Sarah.
Happy holidays.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you guys. Have a great night.
Bye.
All right, we'll talk to y'all later.
Bye.
Bye.